Teresa Campbell here, Hidden Hills Farms. Today we're going to make a batch of sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is really easy to make. 2 ingredients. You need cabbage and you need salt. I like to use the pink Himalayan sea salt. You don't want iodized salt. Most of your recipes will call for kosher salt or pink salt. We will be cutting them up. Some people use a shredder. I like to use a knife. I cut it up really fine. You need scales. Most of your recipes call for, they say a 2% brine is perfect for fermenting cabbage to kraut, and that equals out to a tablespoon of salt for every 1 3/4 pounds. I like it a little less salty, and it might take a day or 2 longer to ferment where I want it, but I usually go 1 tablespoon salt for 2 pounds of cabbage. You will need jars to put them in. I like just using the ball or mason. They're half gallon. You'll need something, some type of fermentation lock. Walmart now sells these. Get the light on that just right. They're a fermentation kit. I don't like them. I like part of it. I like this part. You'll see it almost looks like a potato masher on there, and it's got a spring, because the whole thing with fermentation, you have to keep all of your cabbage down in the brine. You don't want it up above it, because that could spoil. So this spring does a really good job right under the lid. The part I don't like is the lids that come with it. It has these 4 little holes here with this little plastic flap that's supposed to let the gas escape. I use these fermentation lids along with this airlock. It's what they use for beer, wine. You put that on there. This pops off. It's got this little piece here. You fill it with water, or like when you're making wine, you put like Everclear in there. But in this case, you only need water because you're keeping the air out, but you want the gas to be able to escape. I find I've had more success with this type of airlock than this one. I just don't know what went wrong with that, so I have these, so I'll use this part of it with that part. Now I also, before I got these are a weighted piece of glass. They're called pickle pebbles, and they fit right, and they're really heavy, and they're a really thick piece of glass, and they fit right down in wide mouth mason jars, and they will hold your lettuce down also because they're weighted. Now these you can get from Amazon. I can put a link below to them. They don't actually have a name on here. Fermentation Lids. Okay, it comes 4 in the package and 4 airlocks. I think we have enough cabbage to make 2 jars today. So let's move that out of the way. Now I've already peeled a lot of the outside leaves off of this cabbage. I will be cutting out center and then shredding it. I have a bowl that I'm going to use for mixing the salt in, because we will, once we get all of it shredded, we will mix the salt in, and you let it set for about 10 minutes and massage it because that's where you're going to get your liquid from. We don't add water to it. I guess if you don't have enough to make a brine, but if you work it long enough, the salt and the enzymes in the cabbage will make the liquid that you need for filling up your jar. The jars, we will pack them super tight. Okay, they actually make a wooden thing that you can push down. If you can get your hand into these jars, you could push them down with it, but you want it packed in there super tight into your jars. Okay, we will get started cutting this up. Once I get it completely cut up, we will weigh it to know exactly how much salt to put in there. We could weigh these, but you're not going to get exact because you're going to be cutting the core out of these. So we'll pause and be back with cutting them up. Okay, I've cut the cores out of these. I halved one, cut the core out. I'm going to weigh these and get a weight now. That half is 1 pound 7 ounces. I'm going to call it 1 pound 8 ounces. Okay, we're going to call this 2 pounds. So this amount here will get 1 tablespoon of salt. So just use a big kitchen knife. And I like cutting across it, and you end up with kind of long, thin pieces. Now, sauerkraut to ferment about 4 weeks. So we'll put it in a dark spot, probably in the pantry. I always put my jars inside of a pan or a bowl, something that if your fermentation bubbles, because it will start fermenting and it will bubble, and it might bubble up and out of your jar some. You don't want to mess in your floor, so I always set mine in a bowl. At 3 weeks, I open one and taste it, because at that point you're just deciding on how much the flavor that you like. Mine takes anywhere between 3 and 4 weeks to get there. Now, I do not can my kraut once it's done fermenting. I don't want to lose all of those good nutrients from it. Mine goes in the refrigerator, and it usually doesn't last that long because my kids love it. They'll always ask me, "Mom, you got sauerkraut?" They're always taking a jar of sauerkraut from the refrigerator back to their house. My husband eats it about every day. I eat it constantly. Fermented foods are great for your gut. You have stomach issues, eat more fermented foods like kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi. There's lots and lots of options. Now my grandma, they used to make these in crocks. In the fall, they would bring all their cabbage and they'd make a huge crock of sauerkraut for the winter. And that's what they stored it in, that big crock. They just keep it down under the, and use a big jar or a rock to keep the kraut down under the brine until they used it up. Okay, so that one cabbage filled this bowl up. Now you would think that, oh, that amount, it's gonna fill those up. It won't, because once it starts working down, then and you really jam it down into those jars, that will probably not fill those 2 jars. Okay, so we have the 2 pounds, a little over 2 pounds. So we've got 1 tablespoon, and I'm going to heat the tablespoon since we're over 2 pounds. And this one we're going to let it start working while we cut these up. So we just want to mix that salt in there. Okay, we're gonna let it set about 10 minutes so that salt can start working on the enzymes in the leaves of those cabbage. I am going to pause this and I'll continue after I get all this cut up. Okay, all 4 cabbages have been chopped up. 2 of them are in this bowl. The last 2 are in this bowl. They all weighed the same amount. As you can see, these have been cut up the longest, and they are starting to get a brine. You can kind of tell that they are wetter. These still real dry because they were the last ones that I finished. They're starting to get a little wet. What we have to do now is to massage them. Kind of like making dough. Just keep turning it and pressing and just squeeze them. The more you do that, the more brine you'll start getting in there. And the lower down in the bowl that they will become. You just keep working until you have a good amount of brine in there. Now you can add a little water if you can't get enough brine when you push it down to cover your cabbage. You can add a little water, but you don't want to water down too much. You want to really try to work it so that the liquid you have is what is coming out of the cabbage. Now, depending on the time of year, if it's fresh cabbage, if you grow cabbage in your garden, if it's pretty fresh, you'll get brine faster and more brine. If you've stored the cabbages for a while, then that may be when you have to add a little. And when you buy cabbage from like Walmart or your local grocery store, they don't give a date that the cabbage was grown, so you never know exactly how old it is. So you could end up with less brine out of those cabbage because they are older. So we'll see how this does. Like I said, that one hasn't had very long at all. This one has had a good 20 minutes. It was the first and the second cabbage. And every time I go back to it, there's less and less in this bowl, and it gets juicier. Let's see if I can squeeze some. No. But there is a little bit of brine in the bottom of the bowl. So you kind of see the difference in the amounts here now. We'll keep working them, and when we're ready for them to go in the jar, we'll be right back. We've worked, massaged, got them. You can kind of see if I tip this up enough, there's a lot of brine now in there. So we're gonna pack the jars. We use one of these canning funnels. Just keeps down the mess a little bit. There's several, you can buy, these are my mother-in-law's old kraut things. This one's for using in a crock. It's way too big to go in one of these jars. This works pretty good too. This is actually a Pampered Chef for when you're cooking hamburger. So if you don't have one of these, you can use one of these. Get that pan out of the way so you can see. But we pretty much had the jar full, but now we've squished it down about halfway. You can kind of see the foam from the brine that's pushed up. And we do want to leave some space in here. From the bottom of our airlock to where the brine is. And these new things kind of ensure that. And like I said, if you can't find those, the old timers just used a leaf. Like you save some of your outside of your cabbage. And they'd push the leaf down in there and tuck it around around the top of the jar. And it would keep all the rest of them from working back up. I think we'll put a little bit more in this one. That's probably pretty good. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. We put the spring in there. Screw the lid on. And we got to put this half full of water. And we're ready to put this one in a dark place. We'll start tasting to see if it's to the point we like the taste of in probably 3 weeks. Okay. I'm going to fill up the rest of these. Okay, so we have 3 half gallons. One didn't completely fill up, but the other 2 are full. We will mark on the calendar today's date, and we'll know in about 3 weeks. We'll taste test it. I will give an update, show you what it looks like when it's fermenting. Here in a little while, this foam from where I was just really shoving it down in there in the brine, it will go down, and then we'll be able to actually see the gases working when it starts fermenting. This will probably be bubbling up in here. So we'll give an update in 3 to 4 weeks. This is just 2 days of fermenting on our sauerkraut, and let's see if we can get up here where you can see all of the gas bubbles in there. It's from the fermenting. See all the little bubbles, and then they'll make their way up. You can definitely smell the sauerkraut too. Definitely fermenting. Okay guys, we're going to do a quick update on the sauerkraut. It's been 4 weeks today since we made the sauerkraut, and I like to wait the 4 weeks. I mean, you might not like it as sour, so you can start tasting it at as early as maybe 2.5 weeks, but I know I like mine at the 4 weeks. Very, very crunchy. Great sauerkraut taste. It's be great on a hot dog. Perfect. It is great. So these batches, we just took the spring out that we put in there. Our top there. I don't can. You'll lose all your good enzymes from it if you can it. So I just put a regular lid, and these will then go into the ice box. Sauerkraut doesn't last too long around here. Everybody loves the sauerkraut, so put your regular lid on them, store them in the ice box,